let's get your comments on the Navarro saga. And I'll just preface it with saying that we have seen, dueling rhetoric from both sides. Some of it pretty nutty in terms of these accusations from China about where it came from, COVID, even some of the stuff we've said over here that probably didn't sit too well with China. Would you say that at least phase one of the trade deal is so important to both countries that even with all of this heated rhetoric, it's unlikely that it's going to be scuttled? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I'm not there, actually. About 6 weeks ago, I started talking about the fact that phase one is dead man walking, because as important as foreign purchases and other commodity purchases are for the president, it's just clear that at this point, so much anti-China sentiment is fueling up for the fall, both for the election and around what Congress's anger and around post-COVID anger or COVID anger. It's going to be very difficult for the president to stay aligned with this deal, to defend this deal, particularly when the Chinese aren't adhering to it. So I don't think that the time for the deal to fail is yet, but I think it's going to be extremely difficult for the president to keep with phase one through the election. It's just Navarro's not the messenger for its death knell quite yet.
Sounds like you just said Navarro's right.
I think Navarro will be right. I think Navarro jumped the gun because the president's not there. I think most people in the White House, if you asked them, don't think that this deal can last through the fall because of the politics around the election. But I think that right now Navarro jumped the gun because at this point, only one person's opinion on this matters. It's the president. He's not yet willing to walk away from what could be a summer of soybean buying.
Leland, I thought in your view and in many people's view, it was such a tepid first step anyway. Nothing was really decided upon. So what part would be not acted upon? The ag buys aren't going to come through?
Well, the deal was always very difficult to achieve from the very beginning, very bold targets. But post-COVID, the deal itself, the targets embedded in there are impossible to adhere to. What they could see is certain ag targets hit, certain ag targets exceeded, in particularly politically important ones. Again, soybean, wheat, corn. Some of these targets, they're important to the president. The president doesn't yet want to walk away from this deal where he thinks he made a big difference. So the deal itself cannot work. But certain aspects of the deal can work, and even if they don't work, it might be worth getting a few more months of buys from the Chinese before you call it off. So the president's mentally not there yet, but the deal itself is in real trouble in D.C.
So you do see the rhetoric on both sides taking its toll, and I think you're also pointing out that it could be on both sides, both Biden, Vice President Biden and President Trump, that could be a point of where they're going to try and snipe at each other about it. I mean, the president's going to say that Biden's too soft on China. He's got a history of being soft on China. And I guess Vice President Biden will have his own counterpunch to that. And this is going to be a political football during the election.
Absolutely. The issue of China is so tied into the issue of COVID and the COVID recovery because of the fact that the virus came from China. They're now one big issue. But, assuming it's 1A and 1B, this is what the election is going to be run on, these issues. And the fact that the president sort of opened himself up to a deal that's not working is going to be fresh meat for Biden. So I'd expect this to get very, very aggressive on China starting the fall.
Meanwhile, you point out that the Chinese economy finally expanded on quarter in the second quarter after 3 straight months of contraction, but just barely, and that they may have a contraction for the year. It's still at this point, so that's not much of a recovery. They're also, in your view, shifting gears back to some of the infrastructure. Building a bunch of stadiums that no one goes to again, or empty apartment buildings?
Well, yeah. So what we're seeing is a slight expansion on quarter, which is good. It's not nothing. It's the first time we've seen expansion yet this year. But the problem is that if you look at on year, the economy is still in a very deep recession. The numbers are nowhere near the neighborhood of what they used to be a year ago. So the Chinese right now are looking at a lot of options that weren't part of the playbook, a few months ago even. And one of them is going back to heavy infrastructure. And what we're seeing in our early data is a real rally in transportation construction. This is the first time we've seen this in 3+ years. The Chinese said they were going to go back to heavy infrastructure stimulus, but I think we're seeing the first signs that this is being considered very, very strongly in Beijing.